your leisure. Another great show on tap for you today. In our second hour, two conversations. Up first, renowned civil rights attorney Ben Crump updates us on his major civil rights cases this year as he continues to fight to raise the value of black life in America. Ben Crump on the top side of hour two. On the B side of hour two. Okay, on the B side of our two, that didn't work. Comedian and actor Faison Love joins us on the backside of our two to talk about his new project, The Prince of Detroit, premiering on BET Plus Saturday, January the 11th. We were trying to play a clip there for you. We'll find out later what happened, but nonetheless, the new project is called The Prince of Detroit. It is directed by Dame Dash. The film tells the story of Tony Fox, who was born into prosperity. His parents are deemed Detroit's king and queen. When his parents are betrayed and conspired against, they are left with nothing, and a young Tony must do away with his entitlement and use both his parents' teachings and experiences to regain their fortune and restore his position as the Prince of Detroit. Faison Love on the B side of hour two. In our third hour, Kelly Carter Jackson, historian, author, and chair of the Africana Studies Department at Wellesley College, discusses her new text, We Refuse, A Forceful History of Black Resistance. I love this book, one of my favorites of the year. The title, once again, We Refuse, A Forceful History of Black Resistance. We'll talk about it in hour three for the hour with Kelly Carter Jackson of Wellesley College. But in this first hour today, let's talk politics and more with the president and CEO of the Hip Hop Caucus, Reverend Lennox Yearwood Jr. My man, Lennox, how are you, sir?
My brother, man, happy holidays, man. So good to hear your voice.
It's great to hear your voice. Happy holidays to you. Thank you for the time. A lot to talk about. The Hip Hop Caucus celebrating a huge anniversary. We'll talk about that a little bit later in this hour. But as always, we start talking some politics. And this is the story. Let me just give me a minute or two here to set this up. So much news over the weekend. Of course, these days, as we are preparing for Trump 2.0, there's always news. But this is the story that's got everybody talking, certainly in my industry. So I'm sure you all heard and saw over the weekend that ABC News agreed to pay $15 million to settle a defamation suit brought against Donald Trump. Donald Trump, as you know, has had a history of going after major news networks. This one this decision is rather significant because there are many who believe that ABC News straight up folded. They just punked. Yeah. That ABC News agreed to $15 million to settle this defamation suit and paid another $1 million for Trump's legal fees. So $16 million ABC, owned by Disney, has paid out. Give me a minute to set the story up in case you haven't heard it. When we come forward, Lennox and I will start to pick this apart and cover a lot more as we move through this hour. So Donald Trump filed a defamation suit against ABC News, in large part because George Stephanopoulos, one of their star anchors, as you know, referred to Donald Trump in a conversation essentially as a rapist, that he was found guilty of rape. That's not what Donald Trump was found guilty of in that case brought by Alvin Bragg, the DA in New York City. It was an assault case. He was guilty of sexual assault, but he was not guilty of rape. He was not a rapist, and that is the word, the R word, that George Stephanopoulos used in this national broadcast. And for that, Donald Trump went in and went after ABC. Now, there's a fine line, a distinction in the law in the state of New York between sexual assault and rape, but George Stephanopoulos got caught out there, and Donald Trump pounced. So ABC could have fought this. It is hard. It's very, very hard to show defamation. The standard for proving defamation is extremely high in New York, extremely high in this country. And so there are those who thought that ABC would fight this and make their case in court. They did not. They caved. And again, they've agreed to pay $15 million in this settlement, and another $1 million for Trump's legal fees. Now, the money isn't going directly to Donald Trump. It's going to his library that is to be built somewhere down the road. So that whenever Donald Trump builds this presidential library, as everybody does, they've agreed, ABC, to give $15 million to that library. So it's couched as a nonprofit contribution, but it's a settlement in this case. Now, the issue is not just that ABC agreed to give Donald Trump's library this money. Trump is a winner any way you look at it. The real question is whether or not we are witnessing here an attitudinal shift in the media. Let me quote now from Ronell Anderson Jones, a professor of law at the University of Utah, and then we'll get this conversation started. I quote from Professor Jones: major news organizations have often been very leery of settlements in defamation suits brought by public officials and public figures, both because they fear the dangerous pattern of doing so and because they have the full weight of the First Amendment on their side, close quote. ABC has the First Amendment on their side, and yet they caved anyway. I quote now again from Professor Jones. What we might be seeing here is an attitudinal shift. Compared to the mainstream American press of a decade ago, today's press is far less financially robust, far more politically threatened, and exponentially less confident that a given jury will value press freedom rather than embrace a vilification of it, close quote. A whole lot to interrogate when we come forward with our guest in this hour, Reverend Lennox Yearwood Jr. But ABC has agreed to pay this money, and everybody's concerned now about Trump going after every other news organization. When he gets to the White House, he ain't even waiting yet. He's got cases right now against CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post. This ain't the end of this story, pardon the pun. Just getting started on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking.
That's what we do around here.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Make a move into a home of your own. With City National Bank's Ladder Up Home Loan Grant, you could receive up to $20,000 that you never need to pay back. Use it toward your down payment, save on closing costs, or to buy down your mortgage rate. Find out more at cnb.com/ladderuphome. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Property must be in a qualifying market in California, New York, or New Jersey. Additional terms and conditions apply. Not all applicants will qualify. Terms are subject to change without notice. City National Bank is an equal housing lender. Member FDIC. NMLS number 536994.
Hi, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been hearing me guest host here on KBLA Talk 1580, and I'm having a blast. But I'm excited about joining the official lineup here at KBLA Talk 1580 starting Monday, January 6th at 1 p.m. Start your day with First Things First and Dominique DePrima at 6 a.m. Check out Tavis Smiley at 9 a.m. Tune into Truth Time with Dr. Cornell West and Nina Turner at 12 noon, and then tap in with me on The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show at 1 p.m. weekdays. I served 17 years in the U.S. Congress, and I can tell you it's going to be a rough 4 years, so let's navigate this journey together. It's The Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, starting Monday, January 6th at 1 p.m. on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
And the top-rated African-American talk show host in the nation, according to Talkers Magazine. You're tapped in with Tavis Smiley right now.
Tavis Smiley, Reverend Lennox Yearwood Jr. Just getting this conversation started again. If you've just tuned in, we are commencing this show today talking about this major settlement that ABC has agreed to pay a defamation suit brought by Donald Trump, President-elect Donald Trump. So ABC agreed to pay $15 million to settle this lawsuit where George Stephanopoulos used the wrong phrase, said the wrong thing, even though they have all the protection in the world of the First Amendment. Many believe they could have argued this in court and should have fought longer on this because of the way the law is written in the state of New York. And, as I said, because the First Amendment is behind them, these defamation suits are very, very hard to prove. Why? At the heart of proving, I'm not a lawyer, but I've studied this stuff for years. At the heart of a defamation suit, you have to prove one key word: intent. You have to prove intent. And it's very, very, it's a high standard. It's very, very difficult to prove that George Stephanopoulos intended to call him a rapist, given what the case was all about. And so that intent issue is hard. It's a hard, it's a high standard for legitimate reasons, so that people ain't, filing defamation suits all day long. The standard is very high. And when you are a public official, again, public officials almost never file these cases, and they almost never win them because you're in the public domain, and people have the right to critique you as they critique you. And you can't be in your feelings every day filing defamation suits over stuff you didn't like. But that's the frame that we're in now. And there are those who are concerned, including yours truly, that in the months and years to come, Donald Trump is going to be filing threatening suits against everybody. Let me just pause for a second. Before I pause, let me just connect the dot for you right quick. Then I'll cut Linux loose. Remember on this show a few months back when we were talking about these newspapers that would not endorse Donald Trump? Y'all remember this? The Washington Post, owned by Jeff Bezos, would not endorse in the race. The LA Times, owned by another billionaire, would not endorse in the race. You see what Elon Musk has done. He's darn near part of the administration now. But the point is that there was this great debate, great argument about why these newspapers won't endorse. And Bezos wrote a long op-ed in his own paper, The Post, explaining it. I wasn't buying it. The owner of the LA Times tried to explain it. I wasn't buying it. The bottom line is that all these persons have business interests beyond these papers they own. And they don't want the blowback. They don't want the fallout in their businesses. They don't want their bottom line impacted. Now, that's their decision. That's their agency. But as it relates to the news media, Donald Trump is starting to have a very chilling effect on our news. And as you know, it's been famously said, in any war, what is the first casualty? The truth. The truth is always the first casualty. So Donald Trump backed ABC News up. He backed them down. And now if ABC has done it, how do I know that CNN and the New York Times and the Washington Post, to protect their business interests, aren't going to do the same thing? It is scary. I digress. Lennox Yearwood, your thoughts, sir, and we'll jump from there.
Yeah, well, Tavis, the first thing that comes to mind is obviously the quote from Malcolm X, that the media is the most powerful entity on earth. They have the power to make the innocent guilty and to make the guilty innocent. And that's power because they control the minds of the masses. That was Malcolm X in 63. Mm-hmm. So that has not changed. I would say for you, there's also two types of media. There's the mainstream media, which obviously is caving in many ways to what Donald Trump is doing. But there's the black media, and that's a different entity because that serves a different type of community. And we need information. So there's a little bit here, what I believe, that there's a kind of, we're going to beat on the mainstream media. They're going to cave. And then that's also going to send a message that I hope is not sent to people who are like you, Tavis, who have to be courageous, and other of those who are in black media who have to tell this story now. And that's what's so important. Throughout our history, we have seen that these things have happened to kind of show a message that if you get out of line, we're going to do the same to you. And there are probably many of those who are now in black media who are probably concerned about their bottom line, their books. Can they afford these lawsuits? And I just hope they are courageous. I think that right now, what is happening now, we need information more than ever. We need courage now more than ever. And our people they need to have a source that isn't complicit in what's happening, what you're seeing with the media.
Yeah, let me just add here, because as I said earlier, I am not a lawyer and I don't play one on radio or television. But just to drill down a little bit more here, a plaintiff must not only show that a news outlet published false information, but that it did so knowing that the information was false or with substantial doubts about its accuracy. Now, I've known George for years, and I don't know that frame fits George Stephanopoulos in this moment, that he knew what he was saying was absolutely false, sexual assault versus rape, and that he did so knowing that the information was false, or that he had substantial doubts about its accuracy. You see my point here? It is really, really hard in a court of law to prove defamation. And ABC News could have continued this fight given the threshold that is required by courts for a public figure like Donald Trump to prove defamation, but they did not. And so it raises a question about whether we are going, in fact, to see in the years to come an attitudinal shift. I asked you that question, Lennox, whether or not you think that the way the news media has covered Donald Trump, and given what we have seen now with this settlement, that the mainstream media is going to be on their heels, as it were, for the next 4 years.
Well, I mean, I think we're already seeing that. I mean, we're seeing a shifting from even how they're representing Donald Trump. You know, I mean, there's a shifting now of trying to make him and his presidency much more acquired taste for the public. And we're trying to get away from the facts. I mean, there's a certain facts here, right? There are certain facts of the crimes, the cases, you said before, the situations that he's been in. Those things exist. They still exist. They're waiting to be penalized. There's judgments that have been put down. So they're not trying to get away from that for many reasons, because in some aspects, having a return to power for President Trump as we're getting close to January 6th and looking what that was on this country, but a return to power, it says something when the person who was leading your country is also dealing with criminal cases, someone who's been convicted as a felon, someone who's gone through certain situations. And so because of that, there's probably a larger need to kind of show the country that we know what this is, but we need you to respect whatever we're trying to put forward. And that's what I think the media now have to stand up and be like, no, the country can vote. We hold that accountable. We're going to stand to that. But we're also going to say the truth. And that's why I think, again, I'm going to say one more time, that the black media has to stand. Mainstream media has already shown, even before January 20th, that they will cave. But I'm appealing to all of those who are in black media to make sure that you stand in this moment, not just for the first year, but throughout whatever we are to come for our people.
Yeah. This settlement, in part, came about because, as we were told by the media, speaking of the mainstream media, a judge had ordered Donald Trump in this case to sit for deposition. And it had also ordered George Stephanopoulos at ABC News to sit for deposition. And frankly, neither wanted to sit for deposition, certainly not George Stephanopoulos. You don't want to be grilled over something like this. And so it is certainly possible that to protect George, ABC News decided to just pay the bill. It says something about what they think of George, who I've known for many years. And my sense is that that George is not going to be punished for this. I mean, you never know how these things work out. What I know is that companies aren't used to paying out $16 million and somebody's head not rolling. So I don't know if George is safe long term. I don't know if some producer who might have been writing the script in the teleprompter that George was reading, I don't know. I just know that ABC and any other network ain't happy having to dish out $16 million, although all things considered, that's not a whole lot of money, but it is on the other hand.
Right.
And so the $16 million may be worth ABC just putting this behind them, but typically somebody's head is going to roll when you're paying that kind of money for a settlement. Now, the other piece of this is that every network in the country now is on high alert for language, because if you can get caught just by misstating something. I mean, I think about all the times in my career, I'm making the point that Lennox made a moment ago, that, you know, we are not human and divine, we're just human. And so in this business, we make mistakes. I have insurance right now. This is inside baseball, but let me just share with you how this works. So I have insurance called E&O. It's called E&O, but E&O stands for errors and omission. And I have to have this insurance policy that I pay a lot of money for every year, not just for me, but to cover my entire station. This entire station in L.A. has what we call E&O insurance. It's extremely high. These are the things that my employees don't know anything about. And I tell them all the time, you don't understand all the stuff we have to pay around here. When you asking for this, that, and the other, there are all kinds of expenses here. And one of them is a very high insurance bill that we pay every quarter called E&O. E&O stands for errors and omissions. Why do we have that? Because in the event that I end up, or one of my talent end up making a statement that is inaccurate, that's false, we're covered by that E&O insurance if, in fact, we are sued by somebody. Let me just tell you, that has happened. I've only been on the air with this station for 3.5 years. And 3.5 years, I've already been subject to lawsuits over things that my talent have said on the air. And trust me, it ain't comfortable when them letters arrive on your desk threatening you if you don't do X, Y, or Z. And so you typically have an option. You can go on the air and you can apologize. If you believe that your talent did, in fact, make a mistake, you can fight it and spend a bunch of money that a startup radio station doesn't have, or you can settle it. So none of these options are always, in any given situation, none of these are great options necessarily, but that's why we have E&O insurance to cover things like this. I suspect that ABC has a huge E&O policy, and that policy is going to cover them in this payout. Again, I'm no lawyer, but I'm sure the E&O will cover this, because if I got it, I know they've got it. Everybody's got it. But that's what we're up against, that even when you make a mistake, when you think that you've said something clearly and the Trump administration pounces on you, a whole lot of people are going to be, again, on high alert as we move through these next 4 years. I digress on that particular issue. Let me just move now to some other things I want to cover with Lennox in this hour. We are celebrating a huge anniversary of the Hip Hop Caucus's climate album, Home, and the work that they've done on the issue of climate. So I want to get to that in just a second. Before I do that, though, just watching my clock here, Lennox, give me a sense of how you feel at this moment about the fact that Trump is headed back to the White House. I mean, we've been talking about the ABC News piece, but just broadly speaking, given what you do and all the issues that you've worked on as head of the Hip Hop Caucus, what's your sense, how you feeling in this moment about the state of our democracy?
I mean, off the top, we have work to do. We have real work to do. And last night I went to a concert that people should definitely go see it. Leslie Odom Jr. is doing his Christmas concert. It was beautiful.
Yes.
But backstage, it's definitely, if you want to get away from all this madness, please check out Leslie Odom Jr. on his Christmas tour. But the thing there, I would say, is we were backstage, we were talking about this, and I will say that we have to get ready to move forward to organize and mobilize our people, despite what we had before. We have someone who's going to come in, that's without a doubt, who's going to do a lot of different things. But this moment is very important for us to then educate our community on what's available to us. One of the things, Hip Hop Caucus has been doing a lot around the issues of climate. For folks who are listening, and issues around plastic. People who don't know, it has a huge impact on particularly Black and brown communities. We are digesting literally each week a credit card size of plastic. Literally, you take out a credit card, your body is digesting that through microfibers of plastic each week, which is causing our arteries to harden, causing particularly people who have lupus and other types of ailments to have problems. So we are fighting against that. We're fighting against just the continuation of petrochemicals and causing areas like Cancer Alley. And so those are the kind of things. We have to still work on the issues that impact our community. We must fight for accountability. We must fight for a just transition for workers. We must fight for frontline and marginalized communities. We can't stop that. So I think that's the thing for me, that how do we educate our communities, particularly on things where there's money in the communities. For instance, there's a green bank, the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund, called the Green Bank, that got out into the communities. I mean, that's $27 billion would it be that is now out in our communities that can't be taken back by the Trump administration, that can be used for a transition from fossil fuels to clean energy. So I'm excited about that. I'm also excited about there's new leadership. My dear friend, Antonique Smith, who people, I think she wanted to tell you and Ben hello, the actor, actress.
Sure.
But she now is leading a climate organization, Tavis, called Climate Revival, which is connecting the dots with the faith community and music. And so those are exciting things. And she actually was on the album Home. That's why it's a great segue, because she sang a Marvin Gaye song on the album Home. And so I think that you now have people like that, like Anthony Smith, who are now using, not just being the amazing actor and actress that they are and singers, but they are now understanding the moment, the Harry Belafonte, Dick Gregory, Eartha Kitt moment that we're in right now. And they are now coming over to be archivists and to be understanding. And so that's why I'm excited about what hip-hop is
No.
doing, what artists are doing right now.
I want to talk about that moment that we are in right now, given that we are celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Hip Hop Caucus. Delighted to have Reverend Lennox Yearwood on this program. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know the United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time? Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
I'm Bree Wood with 4 things you should know from BIN News. Senator Chuck Schumer is urging the Department of Homeland Security to deploy drone detection technology in New York and New Jersey due to recent unidentified drone sightings. Senator Lindsey Graham supports Pete Hegseth's nomination for Secretary of Defense despite allegations of a drinking problem and abuse, saying he believes Hegseth's side of the story in an interview with NBC's Meet the Press. Amazon Teamsters are ready to strike during the holiday season after 2 New York warehouses voted to strike over contract negotiations. Amazon denies the union's claims. Thousands of Amazon workers went on strike late last month, asking for higher pay and better working conditions. And California faced wild weather Saturday with an EF1 tornado in Scotts Valley injuring 5 and a 5.3 magnitude earthquake striking near Ferndale. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Hello? You gotta get your story straight. What an idiot. Get it through your noodle. Don't give a rat's behind. That's baloney.
A new era begins.
And I'm just getting started.
Judy Justice.
Check your local listing to watch Judy Justice. Out now.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
I'm a bad man.
LeBron rejoined the Lakers Sunday night after an 8-day rest. He missed the last 2 games with a sore left foot, something he said will be an everyday thing for him the rest of the season. LeBron almost had a triple-double in the Lakers' 116-110 win over Memphis. He had 18 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists. Anthony Davis was the star of the show with 40 points and 16 rebounds. The Clippers are at home tonight against Utah. A very poor performance by the Chargers in their home game Sunday against Tampa Bay. The Chargers got blown out 40-17. They were shut out in the second half. The Chargers defense gave up 511 yards in total offense and 4 touchdown passes to Tampa Bay quarterback Baker Mayfield. The Chargers are now 8-6. They need to regroup in a hurry. They play Denver Thursday night at SoFi. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 reminds you that we keep us safe. Every girl deserves a chance to shine. That's the belief behind Forgiving for Living, Inc. Since 1999, this organization has been empowering at-risk girls ages 13 to 18, helping them overcome behavioral and mental health challenges. Founder Wendy Gladney's personal journey inspired the mission to give girls hope and purpose through the power of forgiveness. Through their ambassador program, workshops, and annual annual conference, Forgiving for Living has touched over 3,000 young lives, providing mentoring, life skills, training, and tools for building self-esteem and confidence. You can make a difference. Visit forgivingforliving.org to donate, volunteer, become a mentor, or find help for a young girl in need. Forgiving for Living, Inc., building brighter futures for young girls. Visit forgivingforliving.org today. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The revolution will not be televised.
This is Brother Cornell West. My dear brothers and sisters, I'm full of joy and delight to announce that I'm joining the precious family at KBLA Talk 1580, founded and led by my dear brother Tavis Smiley himself. Yes, the name of the show is Truth Time, and I'll be working with the inimitable Nina Turner out of Cleveland, Ohio, sister of great vision, and we will be on weekday at 12 noon. We will be following Brother Tavis Smiley's show. We will begin Monday, January the 6th. That's right, Monday, January the 6th. Get ready for a different kind of insurrection. We coming with Martin Luther King Jr. and Fannie Lou Hamer and Curtis Mayfield and Aretha Franklin, and gonna add a little Gil Scott Heron too, as Nina Simone sits at the center. That's right.
The revolution will be live.
That's what we gonna do. Please come with us on this fantastic voyage.
The revolution will put you in the driver's seat.
Freedom is an endless meeting. So let's get back to it with Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Reverend Lennox Yearwood Jr., who is the president and CEO of the Hip Hop Caucus, now celebrating its 20th anniversary. And I want to pivot to that now because in this last election, the data is incontrovertible. There is a particular generation, or generations plural, I should say, that sat this out. And for all of the appeal that was made to them, many of them chose the couch versus the Democrats, Republicans, or Independents. And so take me back 20 years ago and give me a sense of how the Hip Hop Caucus came to be and how it tapped into something then regarding young people that apparently we haven't been able to maintain 2 decades later.
Yeah, well, it's still tapping in now.
Yeah.
I mean, we still got to tap in. I think that, the Hip Hop Caucus is celebrating 20 years as an institution for the movement, for the people. Obviously, we continue to fight. Our roots go back to 2004, birthed out of some of the original hip-hop-driven voter engagement campaigns. Mm-hmm. Our work includes from climate and criminal justice, education, healthcare, LGBTQIA rights, and economic justice. But I would say this, the Hip Hop Caucus then and now was a freedom movement born out of the struggle for liberation and equity, and a cultural movement amplified by the desire for creative expression. And so the key thing then and now is that we must still continue to harness culture to empower communities to advocate for and create the changes they want to see. And, as I mentioned before, with artists like we had on the album Neo and Anthony Smith and Raheem Devine, we must help artists, influencers, and creators to find their place in these political and social movements that are happening right now. And so I believe that with this collective power, we are able to hopefully pass legislation, even particularly on the state and local level, if not the federal, but shift narratives, Tavis, and continue to mobilize voters to what will be a very important midterm election in 2026.
I hear your point that that the hip hop community is still tapped in, and I didn't mean that as a rub against the caucus. I was talking about writ large across the country.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, across the country, young people just didn't really connect in this last election. That's what I was getting at. But since you mentioned the artists, let me follow you. So in this campaign, Kamala Harris brought out all these artists And you can't get much bigger than Beyonce. But we can start at Beyonce and go down the list. I ain't got to call the names. We all saw them. But at every rally, there seemed to be just a slew of artists coming out on stages all across the country trying to get the word out about her campaign. And to my mind, that seems not to have worked. Or put another way, it seems not to have mattered. And I'm not kind of cast any aspersion on Beyonce. Let me be clear. I don't want the Beehive stinging me today. So it's not about going after her. Yeah, you're right. I don't want that. So it's a long list. There is a long list of artists, again, that she trumped out. But it seems not to have had any real impact. What's your read of that?
Yeah. So actually, I mean, I would tell to being very nonpartisan.
Sure.
And in this litigious world that we're in right now, I would say that being in a very nonpartisan response to that, I would say that politically, you can't just go out and get artists who you think
Mm-hmm.
It's better to get artists who are actually in the community working.
Mm-hmm.
And so the difference there, I will say this as an example, when the comedian and Madison Square Garden, who nobody really knew, who made the insulting claims about Puerto Rico being garbage.
Right.
Everybody was outraged by that. But what we didn't know is that in that culture, in the community, in that manosphere of particularly that 20 to 40-year-old white men who they were looking to grow, that comedian is one of their stars.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't know him.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't understand who it was, but afterwards he actually sold out Madison Square Garden by himself because of his base is so big.
Yeah.
So one of the things here is that they understood who was really tapped into the culture, who was so not just showing up because they were famous, but really those who were working. And I think that is a kind of a throwback. I mentioned earlier about Harry Belafonte and Dick Gregory and Eartha Kitt and Nina Simone. And there's now a throwback to wanting to see artists who are both in the suites and in the streets.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where that they missed out on the mark. They were trying to find folks who the suites said was important, but then the streets were saying, well, yeah, that's cool, and we like them too, but who's really down here doing the work? Who really we can believe in? Because we don't really know you in some cases, but you're asking us to then believe somebody else who we don't really know as well. And I think in going further, this is why I think a caucus is so important. This is why it's important to engage with artists on a different level. And I think that what we're now seeing, I'm hoping that even in Black Hollywood and in Black music and all those sectors, and Black and brown music and Hollywood, what I would say is that artists now are being held to a higher standard as well.
Mm.
And I'm hearing that as well, that artists are not being asked to be just talented, but they're also being asked to be tapped into their community. People want that for their entire brand, their entire field. And I think artists now, even as big as Beyonce and Taylor Swift, they are now saying that we just can't show up at the last moment. People want to see us actually doing what we're talking about.
No, I hear that. And yet, I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I hear that, and yet there are people, there are artists specifically, who choose just to be artists. I think
That's
of
cool.
Yeah,
That's with that.
yeah. I'm thinking you mentioned Harry
That's
Belafonte.
To be an artist.
Yeah, you think Harry Belafonte. Mr. B was one of my dear friends, as you know, and he and I had many conversations about this. I had the honor of being both friends with Mr. B and Mr. P, Sidney Poitier, and everybody knows the two of them were inseparable at some point. But I can tell you now what I know, not what I heard, but what I know, spending time with both of them for years. Mr. Poitier and I had lunch together every other Tuesday for almost 27 years. Mr. B and I hung out all the time in places around the globe. I traveled with him. And so I know that at one point there was a rub in their relationship because Mr. B thought that Mr. P wasn't quite political enough, that he wasn't stepping up in the ways that Mr. B wanted. And Mr. P was like, okay, I'm going to be there for you when you call me, but first and foremost, I'm an artist. And Harry, if you're an activist, I'm cool with that. But you got to allow me to step in and to tap in the way that I want to tap in. And again, these aren't direct quotes. I'm just telling you that having talked to both of them over the years, I understand that Mr. B saw the world through one prism. Poitier saw the world through another prism. My point is what? That there are some artists who just want to be artists. They don't want to be political. And so I hear your point about people calling on people like Taylor and Beyonce and others to be more political, but not everybody wants that, and one size doesn't fit all, Lennox.
No, and I agree. And let me say this. I love this conversation because I think we're having some that people are so deep for our community to understand how it works to be both an artist and activist at the same time.
Right.
So I would say that being an artist, so folks know, is a business in itself. We mentioned Anthony Smith. That is she's a Grammy-nominated singer, actor. That is a business in itself. It's a whole full-time job. To then run an organization like Climate Revival and be CEO of that is a whole nother skill set. To do both is literally what we saw with you get a Heisman Trophy when you do both, right? When you play defense and offense, they're like, my God, we're going to give you a Heisman Trophy. So we're asking artists to do Heisman level type work. So I agree with you. And for some of the artists, they're like, I can't compete. You're asking me, I got to do this and that. I'm competing with other people. So I hear you. But I think what's different, Tony Kavenbar said it best. The role of the artist is to make the revolution irresistible. And so there is an accountability that we do need artists to stand up and to at least make sure that they're showing the people where to go.
Yep. Fair enough. I received that. Just wanted to offer a different perspective on it. I'm with Lennox. I love artists who aren't afraid to be what I call citizen artists, not afraid to tap in and to stand up when it really matters, not afraid to use their voice and their platform. I love artists like that. That's why I love Harry Belafonte. But also respect artists who choose to stay in the lane that they are in and not be as vocal, not be as out front. They're not perhaps so comfortable in those spaces. As I said, one size did not fit all. I digress for now. More with Lennox Yearwood when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
From Lamert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
We asked seniors how to prevent Medicare scams.
My best advice, if you get a phone call, do not talk to the person. These people are well-trained. Don't talk to them.
They don't know me. They're just trying to scam me.
Don't be fooled. Hang up. Just hang up.
Never give out your Medicare number.
They're going to get your number to put in a false claim.
If I get a call from someone, I don't pick up the phone. And should I pick up the phone and they ask for information, then I hang up.
How do you detect Medicare fraud?
Just like I check my credit card statements, I check my Medicare statements monthly.
Scammers can get a hold of your number, order medical devices through your account, and you're not even going to know about it if you don't look at your statement.
Check your statement every month.
If you get your statement and you see something that you know you did not have done, you report it.
Call your Senior Medicare Patrol.
To report Medicare fraud, call the Senior Medicare Patrol at 855-613-7080.
On behalf of the Ayers family, KBLA Talk 1580 announces the public funeral services for our very own Robin Ayers on Saturday, December 21st, 12 noon, in the living room at the Faithful Central Bible Church, 400 West Florence Avenue in Inglewood. Robin will be sorely missed by all who knew her and the many lives she touched. We will hold on to our fondest memories forever. Family and friends are invited to come celebrate Robin's joyful life Saturday, December 21st at 12 noon in the living room at Faithful Central Bible Church, 400 West Florence Avenue in Inglewood. KBLA Talk 1580 extends sincere condolences to the Ayers family. Robin will always be in our hearts.
Somebody bring out the confetti, baby!
Starting Monday, January 6th, KBLA Talk 1580 has a new midday lineup.
I'm excited!
Are you ready for Tavis Smiley, Dr. Cornell West, Jesse Jackson Jr., D.L. Hughley, and E. Quarterly Corte back-to-back?
Oh my God!
Are you really ready for all this smoke?
I'm ready, brother.
Yes, we still have Dominique DePrima in the mornings and Zoe Williams in the evenings, but middays just got lit on KBLA Talk 1580.
We on fire.
All across America, people are talking about our new midday lineup. Starting Monday, January 6th, our KBLA KBLA 1580 app downloads are on fire because everybody's going to be tuning in.
Yes, I love you guys. You are the bomb.
Now would be a good time to hit up SMB at KBLA1580.com if you want folks to hear about your business or brand. That's SMB at KBLA1580.com. It's going up in 2025 on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's going up. That's what I want.
Less monologue, more dialogue. Tavis Smiley continues right now.
It does indeed with Reverend Lennox Yearwood Jr., who's the president and CEO of the Hip Hop Caucus. Donald Trump has made clear what he intends to do in his first 100 days. He's even told us what he's going to do in his very first hour. In his first hour, he said last week, he's going to start pardoning people connected to January the 6th in his very first hour. That's what he told us last week when Joe Biden made news with all those persons that he gave clemency to, pardoned on that day, a record number of 1,500 people. Again, we're waiting to see what Joe Biden's going to do, how he's going to step up his pardon game in the coming days before he leaves the White House. But that said, we know what Trump's agenda is the first 100 days. When it comes to the Hip Hop Caucus, what's your agenda for the first 100 days?
Yeah, well, I mean, during the first 100 days of that administration, we will closely monitor the actions taken by the administration, their proposed legislation, and their regulatory changes to make sure our communities are informed and engaged. We will also ensure that things like Justice 40 funding for frontline communities and then the pause on liquefied natural gas, LNG exports, aren't rolled back. And regardless of who's in office, say that, we're going to show up, Tavis, and we will continue to make our communities' voices heard. Our goal at Hip Hop Caucus is set on creating a safe, healthy, and equitable world where we all can thrive. And I hope people go to hiphopcaucus.org to help us to ensure that the next 2 years, next 2 months, the next 2 hours on January 20th, that we are showing up.
Yep. When we come forward in our remaining moments with Lennox, I want to ask him what, to his mind, you hear their agenda, the Hip Hop Caucus's agenda for the first 100 days. I want to ask him, to his mind, what accountability looks like. He mentioned earlier he's Hip Hop Caucus is a nonpartisan organization. I respect the nonpartisan status, so I'm not going to ask him what the resistance looks like, what the pushback looks like. That may be an inappropriate question for a nonpartisan organization, but I do want to ask him, to his mind, what accountability looks like. We'll do that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Helping to stretch your moral and political imagination. This is Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
You know where you want to go in life, and City National Bank can help. City National knows the dedication it takes to build your vision for the future into a reality, and our team is here for you. We have a wide range of options to help, from personal savings accounts to interest-bearing money market savings accounts and more, all designed to help you get where you want to go. City National, here for every stage of the journey. Learn more at cnb.com. City National Bank is a subsidiary of Royal Bank of Canada, member FDIC.
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
$5,000. That's the average amount of money people in the U.S. are now spending on gas in a year. $5,000. That's crazy. If you drive, you have to download Upside, the free app that gives you cash back every time you get gas. That's right. You can earn real cash back with Upside just by buying the gas you're already buying. You can literally start earning cash back today.
I use Upside every time I fill up, and I've already made around $200-$300.
You're putting gas in your car anyway. Why not get real cash back? If you like free money, download Upside.
I'm saving the cash I earn from using Upside to help pay for a vacation later this year.
Download the free Upside app now to earn cash back every time you buy gas. Use promo code SNAP to get an extra 35 cents per gallon on your first tank. You can cash out anytime right to your bank, PayPal, or a gift card for Amazon and other brands. Just download the free Upside app and use promo code SNAP for a 35 cents per gallon bonus on your first tank. That's code SNAP for a 35 cents per gallon bonus.
More honesty than you can handle.
More empowerment than you can imagine.
You're tuned in to Tavis Smiley.
Tavis Smiley and Reverend Lennox Sherwood Jr., who's president and CEO of the Hip Hop Caucus. They've done some amazing work over the 20 years of the organization's existence, including an amazing album called the Hip Hop Caucus's Climate Album. It's actually called Home, Heal Our Mother Earth. That came out a decade ago, celebrating 10th anniversary of that. But the organization has been around for 20 years, and one of the things they've tapped into quite honorably and aggressively and nicely is the issue of climate. And you heard Lennox reference that earlier. I've done some work with him around the issue of climate justice, climate equity, and climate resilience. I give them great kudos and great credit for that. I raise that only because we know that Donald Trump and this administration has already given us a clear indication that they're going to be doing a 180 on many of the things regarding climate that I know that matter to you, matter to the caucus, me, and others across this country. That's just a way in to asking you what accountability looks like for you over the next 4 years.
Yeah, well, on that note, we will definitely continue to fight for clean air and clean water. Clean air and clean water is a civil rights issue, and we have a right to clean air and a right to clean water. That's the one. Two, I would just add the word measurable to being accountable. We will be accountable and measurable. Mm-hmm. And I say that from the standpoint that my dear friend, Representative Justin J. Pearson, who we know, we've seen him with his afro from Tennessee, his brother committed suicide on December 1st. And so we have to be, and he was heartbroken. And so I went to the funeral in Memphis this weekend. But I say that because we also have to be accountable to our family and our friends. This is a tough moment. There are many people who are not dealing with this transition of this administration well. And we have to make sure that we're there for them, that we're listening to what they're saying and not saying. And we're loving our family and our friends. That's being accountable to us, each other in our communities. And I think the thing that's measurable is that we as a movement, and I mean this from a collective, from a civil rights movement, we must do better. I think that we must do something now where we have to figure out ways to create jobs, create opportunities for young people. We must create new lanes for new leadership. And I think that this is what this moment brings to us. And so I know about caucus, we are going to be both accountable and measurable to our communities. I know for myself, I'm going to continue to be fighting for what we need to have for our people. And Tavis, I thank you. I know that you're going to continue to do what you're doing, using your platform to ensure we have voices for our people. And I will tell you this, whatever you feel like now when you're going through, if we can get through 400 years, we can get through 4 years. Yeah. So stay strong and make sure that we keep fighting for future generations.
Nope, that's a fresh word. That's a fresh word. And I did not realize, I didn't know this. I'm glad you mentioned it. I didn't know Justin had lost his brother. And so I'll reach out to him today when I get off the air.
Please, he lost his brother. The funeral was this weekend. And for folks who have seen that, he's a dynamic. That's why I mentioned him. And that's what I mean. That we, and somebody don't know, you know this, Travis, we know this, as people who are both myself and you and others who are in the spotlight, sometimes we have a lot going on behind the scenes, and that we have to put on the face because we have to be strong. But that is the moment here we're in is not about that. It's about loving each other in just profound ways.
No, I receive that. I just hate. I've covered this story so many times you can imagine. This increasing ratio, this rate of black men committing suicide. It's just, it is beyond troubling, and I just hate to hear that Justin Pearson, just an amazing brother, as we all know, is having to navigate this with his own family. Anyway, I'll reach out to him. I appreciate you. I love you, man. Good to have you on this program. Happy holidays to you. We'll talk soon, man.
Well, definitely.
Thanks for coming on. Reverend Lennox Yearwood Jr., the president and CEO of the Hip Hop Caucus. Just getting started here. I got a great hour in front of us. Ben Crump and others coming up. Stay tuned to Tavis Smiley.